Hi there, welcome to episode 66 of Paranormal Blip. And if you're listening on the audio, then you're missing out because I'm on YouTube now. And thank you so much for everybody that has joined me on YouTube these last couple of weeks. If you are a fan of the YouTube videos, then please do subscribe, yes, and like. This is what Tony Blair used to do. Do you remember? Yeah, I think who did he get that from? Someone. I don't think it was Clinton, but anyway. And then Cameron used to do it, and yeah. And now I do it. Whoa. Anyway, subscribe, please. And thank you so much for catching up with the fantastic interview that I did with Vinnie Adams last week. And Vinnie's was the first one, really, that I kind of said, okay, look, it's on YouTube now. So thank you for your excellent response to that video. And of course, we've got the legacy members, I'd like to call them, the legacy program, the Spotify and Apple and Pocket Cast and Google Podcasts and various other little platforms that folks all around the world use to listen to Paranormal Blip. So thank you very much. Thank you to everybody subscribing on Spotify and Apple and blah, blah, blah. But if you want to check out the visuals, then watch this. But I don't know. I mean, it seems slightly strange to go on about watching this because you're watching it, aren't you? Yeah, I'm watching it, for God's sake. Get on with it. Right. So this is an interesting episode because, well, number one, this is my first episode where I don't have a guest, where I'm talking to the camera. Yeah, very exciting. Also, I'm going to do something that I've never done before in Zoom because usually I use Zoom to speak to people, obviously. I don't share screens. So I'm going to share a screen in a minute. So see how that goes. So let's just get my ducks in order for this episode. I'm going to be talking about the fact that we are not alone on this planet in terms of intelligent, life. And I'm not talking about Alsatians or, large apes or octopi. I'm talking about NHI. Oh, by the way, speaking about that, thank you so much to everybody that's listened to Chains of the Sea. So I really wanted to get Chains of the Sea onto YouTube. So what I had to do was I had to kind of re-up it on Spotify. And re-upping it on Spotify meant that the sequence is out of order. It's out of whack, which does my head in. But, it's not that big deal, is it? No. Anyway, so if you haven't listened to Chains of the Sea, by the way, you've got to check it out. Yeah, episode 10. But if you're on Spotify, then it's like, kind of redone again. I don't know if that affects, maybe it affects Apple and everyone else as well. Maybe it does. Anyway, so we're not alone. Okay, I'm going to talk to you about We're Not Alone in a minute. And then I'm going to talk to you about this extraordinary case, Johnathan Weygandt. Okay, I'll do a bit of a link to Weygandt's interview that he gave under the auspices of Dr. Greer, and a couple of years ago now, wasn't it? So this is a UFO that apparently went down in Peru. Some very, very interesting story. It's definitely watching Weygandt's full interview. Okay, so there's a couple of folks as well that have spoken about it as well, but I'll get to that in a bit. I look a little bit like a kind of young Eric Davis, I think. What do you think? With the old shirt on. But anyway. So Crush, right? So there's been the kind of obvious and unsurprising pushback in the last week or so with this guy who was essentially given a tip to this journalist who's given a tip to investigate kind of past contact with the police that Grush may have had. And he found this thing and he wrote this article. And basically, I'm not particularly interested in that, okay? Because we've spoken about it and it didn't get traction. So it failed, like massively failed, yeah? I mean, it couldn't have been a bigger failure if it tried. And it looks like the place where he works is going down as well. So, goodbye, goodbye. Now, this is what I want to talk about, right? The time for people to say, I don't believe the UFO stuff, quote from that journalist, I don't believe the UFO stuff. That time is over, okay? That time has passed because of Grush, right? Now, I haven't spoken about this, yeah, and I think it's worth just kind of doing a bit of a show about this. When I first heard about Grush, something changed inside of me. Not massive, but a little bit. One of the best lines I've ever read in any book is by this writer called W.G. Sebald, and the book is Austerlitz, one of the best books I've ever read. And in it, he writes we make decisions based on small changes in our inside of us that we are barely aware of, something like that. I'm paraphrasing massively, but something like that, and you get the gist. Okay, what it is that when Grush, when that story came out, there was the whole hoopla about it. But I noticed in kind of quieter times, after Leslie and Ralph's piece in the debrief, and then kind of we knew that there was then going to be a television interview with Ross. I noticed in quieter times that something had changed inside of me, yeah? And what it was a sense that, this thing that I've been looking into in no great detail compared to the vast majority of UFO researchers, at all. But nevertheless, something that I've been looking into and something that I've been certainly following in the last couple of years. It's happening. It's real. Okay. Now, I did an episode like ages ago when I first started. I don't know what number it is, like number, I don't know, it's 12 or something. I don't know, but it's a long time ago, like over a year ago. And it was, I think the episode title was something like, does the US government slash contractors have crashed vehicles and bodies? Something like the really, good good episode title there, really catchy. And my conclusion was, I mean, obviously, kind of essentially collected together lots of audio of people saying, simply put, yes, as Lou Elizondo famously said, simply put, yes, yeah. So, and then we had Nolan, which I covered, Gary Nolan a couple of months ago now, talking to the SALT conference in New York, where he was saying 100%. Okay, so we kind of, if you're following this, the score, I mean, the rumors, but also the last couple of years, it's gone beyond rumors. Okay, we also know that, there's the various kind of past programs, like US government programs that have been looking into this. We also know the vast array of information out there, which is like confirming like extraordinary UAP activity and behavior. Okay. But of course, you can hear about all of these things, you can understand all of these things, you can kind of take for kind of, people at their word, and like I totally trust Lou Elizondo and George Knapp and blah, 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 blah. Having said that, when Grush, spoke, I basically kind of something inside of me tipped over into realizing, oh my God, this is actually happening. This is real. We are not alone. And I think that in the hubbub and the kind of 24-hour, kind of performance and the circus of UFO Twitter, and like waiting for the next clip and waiting for the next senator to say something and waiting for, the next little bit of news. Sometimes it's important to take a step back and to realize that something absolutely extraordinary is happening to all of us and to everyone alive, okay? Because we now know, because of Grush, we now know that it is true that the US have crashed and landed craft, and the US have uh, biologics, easy for me to say, which, as Gary Nolan said on Twitter, is a general term which basically kind of pleases enough people to be used. Yep. It's not as, this is what Gary says, but kind of suggests to me that what he's saying, what he means is that it's not as controversial or as, essentially headline grabbing as bodies. Okay. But it's saying the same thing, like biological material from non-human beings who were, part of the craft, in the craft, okay? Now, part of the craft is an interesting point because Weygandt talks about the idea that the craft was somehow alive. And you've heard that before, haven't you? Yeah. So let's just take a moment and take a breath here and realize that we are not alone as a species, that there's something happening on this planet at this time that is deeply unusual and we like deeply unknown. Okay. And how unknown is it? Well, Tom DeLonge a couple of days ago said something, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said on Twitter something like, I sometimes wonder whether we're not keeping the secret from, like, us, like the US public or whatever, but we're keeping the secret from the others, like the NHIs, okay? Which is absolutely spellbinding idea, because I always thought that the old NHIs, like I've got this, and I'll kind of speak through my thinking on this, but essentially I've got this feeling, I have had this feeling, and now I'm kind of questioning it after Tom's tweet. Yeah, I've got this, look, if I do like this, it's like I'm leaning on it, like, oh, hold on. Bad mime. Bad mime. Indie. Bad mime indie. Yeah. Um, I've had this thing for a while, which leads to there's the different things connected to it. The Ashatic record, is that what it's called? This idea that you can get yourself into a kind of realm whereby all knowledge is open to you, and you can kind of access all knowledge. Yeah, the Ashatic record, is that what it's called? Something like that. Yeah, and so my kind of default theory on where the NHIs are is that they have a kind of like known. Sorry, I'm just fiddling around with the unsubtly filling around with the cushion on this chair. Hold on. Oh, that's better. The unsubtly, my kind of default on this has been that they. Oh no, the chair was unsubtle. I don't know why I was saying unsubtle, but then I remembered. Yeah, subtly, the beings have got control over everything. Right. That was my default position. Okay. Now I wonder, after Tom, maybe they're just as in the dark as us. Maybe there's little bits and bobs. Maybe they're like, oh my God, like there's other people on this planet. This is crazy. Maybe there's an alternative, like, world that is beyond our perception, or the perception of the vast majority of us, whereby they're just as confused about all of this as we are. And this idea that there's some kind of extraordinary, like race with all these capabilities, it's just that they developed different to us, using different maths, basically, using kind of different ways of doing things. Yeah, they don't dig up stuff from thousands of years ago and burn it and propel, means that you can pull yourself forward. They do it a different way. Yeah, a way that where we are, like in society and in time, what we like to call time, can't understand that as yet. But maybe they're just about as much in the dark as we are. It's a possibility, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, no matter where they are, and of course it's very difficult to um, prove any of this, or what is proof? You'd certainly kind of be confident with your answers in any of this, but it's also very easy to speculate, which is quite nice to speculate sometimes, isn't it? Yes. So anyway, no matter what they're doing and what they're here for, and we could speculate that until the Devon cows come off that field, not that field because that's a logo, that field behind me. Um, they're here. They're here. I'll say it again for emphasis. They're here. Now, I would do the music now. I need to find like a kind of do a kind of manual version, like a glockenspiel or something. Oh, I tell you what, listen, if you're listening in Spotify, oh, forget that. It's far too much work for me. Just imagine the music, for Christ's sake. But I will do the I'll do the music at the beginning and the end for the audio listeners. Okay, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm still working this out, so I don't know how to put music in it yet. Anyway, right now this is something else. Weygandt, Johnathan Weygandt. Go to the link. Check out the interview. So this is a fascinating. It's 30-minute interviews, absolutely extraordinary. Okay, now this is basically what it boils down to. This guy is working for some kind of radar facility in Peru, and he gets the call that something's crashed. So him and his little team there go into the Peruvian jungle. I don't know, is that the Amazon? Maybe kind of Amazonian-ish. And I don't think it is the Amazon, is it? No. And they, what they do is they find a damn craft, quite a large looking craft, and it's stuck in a mountain. It's like crashed in a mountain. And he's there with his two buddies there. But don't need these anymore. He's there with his two mates who he works with. I think they're called Adkins and something else. And they're the kind of like the forward party for this group, you see. So they have gone, they're forward from everyone else, you see. And the other guys are kind of like at the top of the mountain or whatever, and they don't actually see the craft, which I think is in a valley. Yeah. And anyway, he describes the craft. It sounds absolutely extraordinary. He describes it as greenish purple, purple greenish, and he says that it's somehow alive. It's very interesting. He also has this kind of telepathic, very strong sense that there are beings, more than one being in the craft, and they're trying to tell him, or they do tell him, you're not in any threat, but you do need to help us, please. And then out of nowhere, these kind of black clad elite US soldiers turn up and arrest him, take him off somewhere, and essentially kind of interrogate him. They don't lay a hand on him, but they're verbally like really kind of too much, far too much, threatening him, saying that they can do anything. They're not kind of bounded by the Constitution, saying they're going to drop him out of a helicopter and leave him there. And this guy, poor Johnathan Weygandt, is really like wondering what on earth is going on here. And nevertheless, he does get sent home. So he spoke to Dr. Grizz. Very, very interesting. Okay. Now it's also mentioned in Loose Threads. And also RGH, who is a Twitter user, has written a really good Medium piece about it as well, whereby he's started to link together lots of what we know about, Peru and the kind of US government's radar installations and all that kind of stuff as well. So I'll link all of those things, okay? Now, one thing that I took out from when I was looking at it the other day was the international collaboration that that Weygandt talks about. Okay, he says that there are Chinese people at the radar base. He says that there were Germans, he thinks, as well at the radar base. And he was really kind of thinking, this is he says something like an international, like NATO, or something like an international, um, collaboration going on here. Now, that's what Weygandt says. Now, here's my speculation, okay? I wouldn't be surprised at all, because we've heard from Ross Coulthard that, the UK is involved. We have from Kirkpatrick himself that Five Eyes did a briefing on UAPs, like when would it have been? Like April or May? Yeah. And I think May, I think. And, I wouldn't be surprised at all if there is long-term, decades-long this looks like a politician's thingy, doesn't it? Or maybe it's a bit too saucy for a politician. Anyway, decades-long cross-pollinating, very, very close collaboration between countries that trust each other, okay, on a kind of security basis. Countries that essentially, the UK doesn't have an independent nuclear deterrent, because of course it doesn't. Do you know what I mean? Because the United States are the bigger partners. Yeah. So the idea that the UK has an independent nuclear deterrence, unfortunately, wilts if you scrutinize the situation of nuclear weapons being on the UK mainland, or the kind of offshore, wherever they are. I don't know. Don't look at me. But the US is the kind of obviously the kind of major partner in Five Eyes, for instance. I wouldn't be surprised at all if there were like deep collaborations between the United States and the UK, like as an example, but also the United States and Australia, and United States and Canada. I mean, that's obvious, isn't it? It's like totally obvious, yeah. In terms of UAP crash retrieval, I mean, that's essentially like Voss has said that, yeah. But I wouldn't be surprised if it. No, sorry, I whacked the mic there. Did you hear that? Probably went wrong. Apologies. I was getting so excited. I wouldn't be surprised if it just goes back for decades, and we may never know, so I can speculate freely. But if it ever comes out, you'd be like, oh, right, okay, yeah, okay, that happened then. So anyway, check out Weygandt. And I just wanted to kind of like have a moment where we could come together as a people of the world and say, we are not alone. Okay. Do you remember that bit in Man of Steel? Like there are some things that I like about that film, but the bit when that dude, what's his name, Michael Shannon, came down as Zod, and he kind of got in contact with all of the televisions in the world, and he kind of played his video, his "We Are Not Alone" video, "You Are Not Alone" video, in different languages, and you think, hold on a minute, how on earth did they make that video in their spaceship? It's pretty good, isn't it? It's not the best sci-fi film, but there's some things that I like about it, but not the best. Anyway, we are not alone. It really looks like that's the case. I mean, I don't want to do a big low here, but the preponderance of the data is actually suggests very, very strongly, with 100% certainty, as Nolan would say, that we are not alone. And the next time some sucker says, I don't believe this UFO stuff, you then say to him, hold on a minute, Grush, the IC, the ICIG, the former ICIG, who's now his lawyer, yeah? Are you telling me that they're all, what? What's going on? Are you telling me that they're all, what? Yeah? You say that next time, and just go through, like, piece by piece, all of the bits of evidence that we have, because there is a preponderance of evidence that we are not alone. Anyway, thanks for watching, and Episode 67 will be soon. Please do like, subscribe, etc., etc. And I really appreciate your support. See you later.